Before Mortal Kombat II premieres later this week, I want to go back to where this iteration of the series began. Because 2021's Mortal Kombat deserves more credit than it gets. Not as some great work of cinema, but as something arguably more difficult to pull off. A video game adaptation that works on its own terms. Not just good for a video game movie, but actually good. To understand what 2021's Mortal Kombat was up against, you have to understand what came before it. The original Mortal Kombat arcade game arrived in 1992 and caused a moral panic significant enough to help create the ESRB rating system. It was all about the fatalities, the spine rips, the decapitations, and the gleefully excessive violence that sent parents to Congress and sent teenagers back to the arcade with fistfuls of quarters. The 1995 film adaptation understood this, but arrived at precisely the wrong moment to fully embrace it. Constrained to a PG-13 rating, it turned the gore into something slicker and kitschier. A Hong Kong action pastiche that was, by video game movie standards, almost miraculously competent and a load of fun in its own right. It made $122 million, spawned a sequel, and then slowly aged into a very specific kind of 1990s cheese. Fondly remembered, but rarely rewatched. By 2021, the video game movie curse had finally been broken for a few years, and Simon McCoy's Mortal Kombat arrived into that more hospitable landscape with an R rating and a mandate to finally give this franchise what it always deserved. And it opens with its best sequence. A prologue set in 17th century Japan following Hanzo Hasashi, the warrior who will become Scorpion, in the aftermath of his family's massacre at the hands of the man who will become Sub-Zero. It is a sequence of genuine emotional power, and it establishes something the rest of the film only intermittently sustains the sense that there are real human stakes embedded within all this supernatural carnage. The blood feud between Scorpion and Sub-Zero is the oldest kind of story vengeance, loss, and the cycle of violence across generations. And when the film remembers that this is what it's actually about, it is at its very best. Now, the decision to center the narrative on Cole Young, an original character invented for the film as a way to make the fan favorite Scorpion the main character of the film, is its most debated creative choice. And not without reason. Cole exists primarily as a vessel for exposition, a naive newcomer through whose eyes the world of Mortal Kombat can be explained. Louis Tan brings genuine physicality and more charm than the writing deserves, but is inevitably overshadowed by the icons around him. And those icons, to the film's considerable credit, are handled with real affection. Josh Lawson's Kano is the most purely entertaining presence in the entire movie. A foul-mouthed mercenary whose comedic energy provides welcome relief from all the mythological heavy lifting. Joe Taslim's Sub-Zero is genuinely menacing, cold, precise, and visually spectacular in every sequence the film gives him, and franchise protagonist Liu Kang is underserved by the script, but Ludi Lin brings enough presence to suggest that a sequel giving him more room would be well worth seeing. But of course, the fight choreography is the film's real achievement. Director Simon McCoy comes from an advertising background, and whatever limitations that brings to narrative construction, it has given him a precise eye for visual spectacle. The action combines genuine martial arts craft with the special effects required to render the fighter's supernatural abilities with convincing physicality. And then there are the fatalities. The film earns its R rating with an enthusiasm that feels less like gratuitous shock value and more like a genuine act of fidelity to what this franchise has always been. The violence is cartoonishly extreme in precisely the way the games always were. Foolishly creative and often darkly comedic, and designed to produce a very specific reaction that falls somewhere between horror and delighted laughter. It is, in its own way, a form of respect. The filmmakers understood that fans didn't want the violence sanitized, they wanted to finally see it on screen. Now, where the film stumbles is in the machinery connecting its set pieces. The screenplay is primarily occupied with assembling its ensemble, a round-up-the-gang structure that prioritizes introduction over development. Several characters feel more like placeholders awaiting a sequel than fully realized presences in this film. Sonya Blade in particular deserves considerably more than she is given. These are the limitations of a franchise builder rather than a self-contained film. A first chapter more interested in establishing the world than in fully inhabiting it. But here's the thing. That's precisely what 2021's Mortal Kombat set out to be. A confident, R-rated foundation for something larger. And with the sequel arriving this week, shifting focus to Johnny Cage, the franchise's most flamboyant personality, and perhaps suggesting a different fan-favorite central character for each film in the series, that foundation has genuine potential to support something even better. Because what 2021's Mortal Kombat ultimately achieved was something its 1990s predecessors never quite managed, a film that works on its own terms. Not just on the forgiving terms of good for a video game movie, but actually good. It is imperfect and sometimes clumsy, occasionally more interested in its mythology than in making sure the audience can fully follow along, but it's also genuinely exciting in the ways that matter. It takes its source material seriously without losing its sense of humor about how seriously that source material should be taken. And it delivers, with real gusto, exactly what it promises. In a franchise built on the spectacle of the finishing move, knowing what you are and committing to it fully is its own kind of victory. A flawless victory? No, but a very solid round one, and I cannot wait to see what round two brings. So let me know in the comments, where does 2021's Mortal Kombat rank for you among video game adaptations? Mortal Kombat 2 is out this week, so expect my review soon. And don't forget to subscribe to Fandom Frontline so you don't miss it.